It's from the subreddit Let's Not Meet. Oh, friend who isn't so friendly anymore. I first met my friend Nick in the middle school. At the time, we weren't really friends, but I did get to know him a little bit. Frankly, he scared me when I first met him. He was one of those kids who wore all black, gave himself piercings during class using safety pins, etc. He was bipolar and a whole slew of other issues, including being on drugs at the time too. Fast forward a few years to high school. I didn't really have any friends and was kind of a loner. I also have fall birthday, so I was one of those first kids in my class to turn 16 and get my license, start driving myself to school. Nick had grown out of the druggy phase, got on medication for psychological problem, and seemed like a fairly normal guy now. One day he was talking to me and asked if I could give him a ride home. I was happy since at that time I was pretty desperate for someone to hang with. I ended up becoming very good friends with him and another guy he hung out with, and three of us pretty much spent all of our high schools as a group. Looking back, they kind of took advantage of me as my family had more money than either of theirs, and I was more happy to share. I drove them to lunch and paid for it part of the time when they didn't have money. Always had the newest video game systems and would pay the rent games from Blockbuster, etc. It was never anything major, just a few bucks here and there, and we really did have some good times. They were pretty good guys for the most part, but I do feel like that was at least part of they became my friends. Even if that was the case though, it was worth it for me because they were literally the only bright spot in otherwise miserable high school experience. Nick could sometimes be an asshole, particularly if you spend more than a day or so with him at time. I took a week-long trip to the beach with his family and ended up hanging out with his brother more than him because he drove me insane. There was a particular incident at a go-kart track where he literally was screaming at a 10-year-old kid and trying to pick a fight with the kid's father after the race because he had cut him off on the track. He then got pissed at me for not backing him up when I was too busy trying to call in a corner and act like I didn't know him because he was being ridiculous. I was embarrassed, and friend or not, I was kinda hoping the guy would kick his ass because he deserved it. After high school, Nick stayed in our hometown and went to a local community college while me and the other guy went to the other state university a few hours away and were roommates. We would see Nick when we came home on weekends and stuff. After that year, he joined us. Nick struggled and was in and out of the school, never really trying that hard. At one point, his girlfriend from high school cheated on him because he took it pretty hard. They started adjusting his medication, and I don't think they ever got it quite because he was never the same again. During this time, I introduced him to my girlfriend's sister. We had actually gone to school with her, my girlfriend, and a couple years younger, but never really knew her until I started dating her sister. Anyway, they started dating, and first it was all cool. We could double date and stuff. I was a little worried though, because I knew he could be an asshole sometimes, and I was afraid of what would happen if their relationship went badly. Her parents hated him, and I was always trying to defend him as its best I could without making them hate me too. I had gotten engaged to my girlfriend, so I felt like I was always in the middle between my future in-laws and one of my best friends. Eventually, they got engaged too, with her, which her parents really hated. They rushed into getting married. I think they had been together for less than a year at the time and moved together while we were still in school. Things went south rather quickly. He started expecting her to support him, quit going to school, said he was going to live on disability for the rest of his life because of his issues, and they pretty much fought constantly. They had only been married for around 4 to 5 months when he started threatening her to kill. He even went as far to detail the plans he had come up with to do it. Needlessly to say, she left and they got divorced. After less than a year, this put me in the awkward spot of having to choose between my fiance and her family, or one of my only friends. I tried to defend him as best I could, saying things like, "He's not really like that. His medication is still messing up. He doesn't mean it. He won't really do that. But how can you truly stick up with someone who's threatening to murder his wife? I did the best I could, but ultimately, if I wanted to keep my fiance, I had to lose my friend. Our other friend was supposed to have been my best man, but he refused after what happened with Nick, so I ended up losing both of my friends overall and ordeal. Pretty much exactly what I had been afraid of when they first started dating. The last time I spoke to Nick, he had come into the store I was working at with some people I would never seen before. I said, "Hey," and waved him, immediately flipped me off and walked out the door. So that was pretty much confirmation that our friendship was completely over. I'm not really sure how any of this was my fault, but apparently I was supposed to completely leave a 6 year relation and break up an engagement because he was a psychopath who threatened to kill her sister and she left him. I really wish this was the end of the story, but it continues. Her sister found someone new who is an amazing guy and now one of the closest friends I have ever had. He ended up being my new best man, and I have far more in common with him than any of my old friends. He's been like a brother. I graduated, got married, moved home, and started a family. My wife's sister got remarried to the new guy, and they have a 3-year-old together now. Everyone is happy and was pretty much forgot Nick until the day he came back to the town and started working at a local grocery store. My mother in law was the first one to see him and pretty much forbade her daughter from shopping there anymore. She was terrified that he would come after her and her kid if he saw them. They ended up moving to the other side of the town shortly afterwards. Anyway, so not a big deal. I wasn't as threatened by him, so I continued to shop there. I assumed, since it had been about 5 years, that he would have moved on with his life too. I would see him working a register or something and just got a different one and tried to avoid his notice. But other than that, I didn't really go out of my way to avoid him. One day, I saw him looking at me and sort of nodded. I didn't speak to him because of the way our last interaction had gone. I was met with the coldest stare I have ever seen. After that, anytime I was in the store, he would be there, followed me around. It was almost the way a store will have a worker shadow someone they think might be stealing. Whenever I looked up, he was nearby. When I left the store, he would head outside to bring cards and some other thing to watch me until I was in the car leaving. The last time I shopped there, I made a mistake of taking my newborn son. He started fussing, so of course I picked him up and tried to calm him down. At the point, Nick walked by and slammed into me, nearly making me drop the baby. He then walked off like nothing had happened. I decided that day it would probably be best if I could start shopping at a Walmart as much as I hated to. That still wasn't the end of it. Unfortunately, a few nights later, I had stayed up late on computer and realized I would have forgotten to sit the trash out to be picked up. It was almost 3 a.m. when I went outside to move the cans to the curb. As I walked out of the garbage, a large van with blacked out windows suddenly came around the street and just stopped at the end of the driveway. I was a little nervous since it was 3 a.m. and they were clearly not neighbors. So I took my time finding with the cans beside the house, waiting to see what they were going to do. Eventually, they went slowly down the street and stopped. I put the cans out as fast as I could and went back inside, making sure all the doors were locked. I went to sleep with my guns on the nightstand. Also around this time, my grandmother's house was broken into. Whoever did it knew where everything in her house was. They didn't broke anything. They went straight to where her jewelries were and took most of it. Then they went straight to the closet where my grandfather's guns were and took several of them as well. About a week later, they returned and cleaned out what they hadn't taken the first time. We had no proof, so the cops won't do anything. But we are fairly certain it was Nick. He had been to our house before, and I had shown him the guns when we were friends, since whoever broke in knew exactly where they were and what they were looking for and exactly where to find it. That pretty much limits a list of suspects. I have seen the van driving around in front of the house late at night several more times since. It's becoming less frequent since I started shopping elsewhere, and thankfully, nothing else has happened. I keep my gun nearby at night now, and we have had a security system installed since nothing has actually happened, and since we can't prove it was him, the cops won't do anything. I'm hoping this doesn't escalate again. So creepy, crazy old friend who is no longer so friendly. Let's not meet anymore. Hey guys, thank you for watching it. This is my first video, so I made some mistakes.